COT's base of operations is right here at thecounciloftime.com. COT has no other outlet or venue. These are other folks who will rebroadcast. Anything COT does is by the main page here at thecounciloftime.com. Good evening, everybody out there. I cannot see you guys. I don't have an ability to see you guys, so you guys make sure you behave yourselves, please. Isn't that funny? Like I'm grandpa or something. Well, it's very good to be with you guys. I hope you guys on the coast are hopefully you're not on the coast, East Coast, right? Some of the rains that are coming in are going to be quite challenging. Flooding will be expected, of course, is happening in certain places, starting to build up. I'm thankful this thing absolutely did not do what it could have done. But I do think it's a warning shot across the bow. Something all of us can be mindful of, right? A lot of people believe, or they talk about, for some reason, on the internet, how mankind is causing this weather, right? Yet we have hurricane season, and no one ever says that hurricane season is caused by some technology, right? Nobody ever says that. Only when it gets rough and it hits a location, and we assign, we give credit to mankind for being so ingenious with this stuff. Well, I'm grateful. Nothing took effect as it could have been. I believe that's God's mercy. I do. Things are set in motion, yet His mercy is sufficient to have heard the cries of those who are in places that are still recovering from the previous hurricane season's damage. And I'm very grateful for that. My heart goes out to all those who are in those areas where you would expect flooding and all sorts of things. Hold on. I hear myself. Can't do that. I can see you guys now. Very good. I can see everybody now. But very grateful for that. Extremely grateful for that. Well, where do we have a conversation? But where to begin? That's the question. Where do you start? Where do you start? Weather woes. That's our topic for today. Weather woes. There are lots of experts on the internet, right, that people listen to and consume information. And I'm very thankful for those guys that are out there, by the way, who do educate people on how weather works. To give you a brief summary, weather is becoming a challenge. It really is. And the sinkholes have begun again. They have. They will grow. But weather is causing something else. We're going to talk about that when I get back. I'll tell you something. All the billionaires, all of them, expect what you don't expect. So, I hope during this broadcast you guys take some things under consideration. I hope that you research everything we're going to talk about so that you know yourselves, right? It's one thing to hear something. It's something else to have that confirmed. And I want you guys to confirm it yourselves. You can do that. The records are out there. You can confirm it. It's so easily confirmed. But when billionaires begin to make moves, you might want to pay attention. See, billionaires are interested in perpetuating or continuing their own lives, right? And their livelihood. This world is soon to change. It will not be under governmental control. It'll be under a different type control. And if you're not prepared for it, you will be blindsided. You will. I want you guys to think about the implications of what's going to be discussed tonight. It's Wacky Wednesday, right? So we're going to discuss topics we normally wouldn't throughout the week. Today we're going to do that. It's going to be an eye-opener for some. Do me a favor. Do not allow fear to govern any decisions you may have Don't make hasty decisions. Don't do that. We'll set some things in motion. Today, no doubt. No doubt. No doubt. I'm not bragging or, tooting my own horn or patting myself on the back, but when you start talking about subjects like these, the conspiracy engine starts turning. This is not a conspiracy. This is verifiable by public records. And I want you guys to verify what we're talking about today so that you are duly informed. Because of all the things on earth that are a danger, weather is one of those constant elements we deal with that we know about that often take a toll on both our lifestyles and life itself. And we don't really think about the implications, long-term and short-term implications of what's been happening and what will happen. We're going to look at all that tonight. So if you guys are ready, we'll dig into it. Believe me, the weather can take you in places you never thought you'd end up in. So again, don't let fear govern your choices. All right? So clear yourselves of fear. Don't make any decision based on fear. Subjects like these can often cause fear, right? And a lot of people, they don't look at certain subjects because they are afraid. Don't be afraid and not look at information or not look at a situation. Don't do that to yourselves. Understand who you are. Reaffirm who the Lord is in your life. Make no decision, have no prayer based on fear. If you do, it's not coming from the source of our Father. He did not give us a spirit of fear. So don't have a prayer based in fear. Right? Don't do that. Don't make a request because of fear. Don't make a move due to fear. Don't do that. The Lord has kept you this long. He has. You've tried to protect yourself from things in life, but he has shielded you from the various and the multitude of things you had no ability to see. You're here for a reason. Not here at COT, but here on earth. And yes, you could be here for a reason at COT. Hopefully, so you can get this information and verify it so that you can be duly informed and actually be of some use to your families and your friends. Because those who don't know about it, or those who forget about it, they will be blindsided. It's not going to be easy on them in life. Things are soon to change. I know you can feel it. I know you can feel it. You can feel it. The animals, they certainly know it. They know it. They know it. Do you guys know, for example, let me give you a small example. And we are going to take a small initial break. I'm going to give everybody a chance to pop in here. I'm going to cut on a couple of more streams. We'll begin, but do you guys know that how many of you guys track sunflowers? Or know anybody who is a farmer who has fields full of sunflowers? Something in the last 3 years has been happening that is quite odd, this year more than most. Sunflowers normally face the sun. Right? Now we know when sunflowers, they become mature, they don't face the sun. Right? They don't do that. They face anything. But normally a sunflower will face the sun. I've noticed a phenomena a couple of times. Sunflowers are facing away from the sun, perfectly away from the sun. Perfectly away from the sun, right? Somebody asked me, they said, well, Mike, what is it? I said, it's the place you can't see that's causing the problem, and soon everybody will see. Just to simplify it, there are certain things you cannot see because of the sun. In fact, you feel it every single day. You don't know what it is. Something is there. You just can't see it. And nobody talks about it because right now it's impossible, right? Not for those who have the equipment, but it's impossible for it to be named. I'm telling you right now, everybody with all these detectors and optics and everything else, right? They're not going to tell you anything. those who can see it, and those who can't see it, those who have no funding to see it, right? Well, they can't say anything. And if those who do know it, who are at the university level or something like that, if they were to ever utter it or suggest it, their funding is cut off. So they're not going to say anything either. But the sun can shield unbelievable things. It's impossible for us to see it because of the sun. Impossible. But there's something called cause and effect. The sun will not always shield it. The sun will not always disguise it. It won't. The nature of the sun will surely be known. And when these objects are detected, people are going to look at these scientists and other people and say, why didn't you guys tell us anything, and why couldn't you see it? Why were you blind to it? It's in the numbers. It's in the numbers. The problem is, many people cannot interpret the numbers, right? They can't sell it. I want you guys to keep this in mind. If you are a scientist and you have no ability, or your colleagues have no ability to verify something, and if that verification cannot be replicated at the public level, you can't utter a word, because if you do, you're going to get your funding pulled. There are many people who ask all the time, especially about this UFO subject, what about those people who know about it in high places? Why won't they say anything? They'll never permit somebody to say anything that's going to be taken seriously. It'll collapse you may think it won't collapse things. It will. If there were proof, let's give a scenario, short scenario, then I'll take a break. Let's say that, for example, Dr. Avi Loeb, right? Let's say, for example, his what he suggested, right, is right. Let's say it is a ship or probe or something like that. And him and his team found that out. I'll tell you right now, I do not believe. There's nothing within me that believes. And it does give me a moment to pause, because I know how evil people can be. They will not permit him to tell anything outside of a specific narrative. Do you know that? Do you really think they would permit anybody to tell anybody else what it is? Do you think? You think? I don't believe that. I really don't believe that. Some people make me nervous. Should they find the truth of something like that? And if there's one thing I know, everybody on earth is touchable. Everybody on earth is touchable. And if you start treading into those areas, often people find themselves by themselves. But if you ever hear of a scientist, and keep this in your mind, who has evidence of something, right? Prominent scientists who have evidence of, not a YouTube scientist, but a real scientist. If they have evidence of something, and they're talking favorably of some type disclosure, something like that, and all of a sudden that person changes his or her tune, and they drop the entire subject. They've probably been approached. Likely they have been approached. Some people have seen the toughest. Some of these scientists are pretty tough, right? They're pretty tough. Not so tough when the weight of the world is weighing upon them. There's still evil people in this world. And if they want something to be kept secret, it's not. In fact, nobody knows secrets, even to this very moment. If something ever leaks on the internet, do you really believe it's a leak? It's not a leak. It's not. Everything you see on the internet, it's impossible for something to be leaked on the internet. That's just impossible. It is. It's not going to be leaked. They know about it. There's nothing leaked. Everything is fitting into a narrative. It truly is. And some people are saying, one more thing, some people are saying, hey, do you know about Project Bluebeam? And they've gone too far. They said, well, they say a UFO is coming. That's what they say. They say a UFO is coming. That's what they say. They say a ship is coming. That it could be hostile, this, that, and the other. And this Project Bluebeam, well, let me explain something to you. Do you really think that people would know about a false flag before the false flag? Nobody has ever named a false flag except what people call spiritual kookies. Nobody has ever known about a false flag prior to a false flag. No one has successfully told anything about a false flag before a false flag ever came. Nobody. Do you not? They know everybody talking on TikTok, on social media, on the internet. They know every single subject. If somebody ever had the truth of what they're planning or what they're doing or something like that, that person wouldn't even, whatever they have to say, would never reach the public. There's no way anybody can say anything on the internet. You have to go through different channels. Just to let you know that. Now, spiritually is different. Hear me on this. Spiritually, people have named false flags. And everybody missed it because it didn't come from a prominent source. But oh yes, people knew every single false flag has been spiritually disclosed prior to it happening. No one in the know has ever come forward and told anybody about a false flag, and the public knew about it through any official channels or any popular channels or avenues, right, or venues. But when it comes to those who are spiritual, it always comes forward and everybody ignores it. You know that? Spiritual things are largely ignored. They're written off. Nobody pays attention. And do you know what? Everybody is always warned spiritually before anything ever happens. It never fails. That will never fail. But the public does not listen to spiritual kooks, do they? No. They go for the people who know everything. Right? Thus, they don't know and they will not know. They don't. If something is known, then that's not the direction to look into, is it? It's not known. And because they compartmentalize things, there's just no way that people outside of certain groups would ever even know the capabilities of that group. There's no way. There are 4 levels of science. We're not talking about the standard model in quantum science or quantum physics and all this. We're not talking about the modeling. No, we're talking about the 4 distinct groups. There's one group that knows about everybody's stuff. There's another group that only knows about its stuff and those below it. Yet another that only knows about its stuff and the one below it. And those who know the standard science. The one that's at the top, right? Hardly anybody knows about. Nor do they share their findings. They don't share their experiments. They don't. In universities, do you know there are rooms, entire floors of universities, and even the highest levels of that university have not entered into those places. Isn't that funny? In fact, in every single notable university, there is a reserved government location. And nobody's permitted access into those. That's right, compartmentalization, somebody said. That's very important, compartmentalization. And that means one person does not know anything about the other person. There's only a handful at the top who know about everything that they're doing. But if they have to murder half the world to keep one side from knowing what the other side is doing, then so be it. Oh, and they fund everything. No scientist is going to work outside of his or her funding. They won't do it. If they start working outside, because they can stop private funding. They can stop private funding. They can halt anybody from giving to anybody they want to. Hope you know that. If, say for example, if I had something secret to tell you guys, and they knew I had something secret, I was going to divulge to you guys. Right? Do you know they could stop you from contributing anything to COT? They could halt COT so easily it wouldn't even be funny. They could, if they wanted to. They could. And then nothing would ever happen here. Here's the funny part. That same thing, if I had a secret, I could give that secret spiritually. And nobody would hear it except those who have spiritual ears. How awesome. I could tell the greatest, I could tell the most secret thing spiritually. And the only folks that would hear it are those who have spiritual ears. You know, the Lord informs us this way. That's why he spoke in parables. You have never been prematurely warned of any major thing ever taking place, but spiritually, you've received it. Trying to tell you something, because in the realm of the sciences, that's controlled information. So you always have surprises. There's always an I got you moment, right? Always some big surprise for the world that happens all the time, but not amongst those who have spiritual ears. Anybody who believes in Christ has been given the ability to resolve spiritual things. But it requires your sincerity, not greediness, your sincerity. You can't be the one who wants to know everything and everybody. You can't be the go-to person. You can't have that attitude. You have to be sincere. God works by a needing basis, right? Not by a gluttonous basis. In other words, God will grant you what you need to have. If it's important for your walk, you're going to know it. If it's important for your walk, you're going to have it. If you have to have your health to fulfill your calling, you're going to have your health. Should a person agree to their calling, whatever you need, you're going to have. Your healing is in your calling. Your provision is in your calling. Everything is in your calling. Your spiritual eyes in your calling, spiritual ears in your calling. All your blessings are in your calling. Should you accept that calling and begin to walk forward, you will have everything you need to fulfill your purpose here on this earth. That's where everything, some people are trying to do what they want to do, and they're still looking for a blessing. Why would God bless you on the wrong path? Think about that. Why would he bless you if you're on the wrong path? Why would God bless me if I'm doing what I want to do? And he wants me to do, he made me to do what he wants me to do, but he's not going to force me. He will call me to see if I would accept. Right? What happens if I don't accept? I'll be like everybody else. Just missing things. That should be the major story. What you don't have. Those who start to fulfill their calling. Yes, it comes with a sacrifice, but only a sacrifice of fleshly oriented things, that's all. But everything I need, everything I could possibly need is on the pathway of that calling. So the day I accept my calling, provisions, everything is open to me. But if I go after what I want, I'm left to my own devices. It's not that God will curse you, right? That's not the deal. It's just that what you absolutely need is not going to be on your own path. Why would God bless that when that will not bring you to the fullness of salvation? Why would God bless this path I made for myself when it will ultimately serve something that could be against him. There's no blessing in that for me. I'm going to have his grace and mercy. I'm going to have that. But I won't necessarily. I'm going to be missing things I need. Right? When you have spiritual ears, all of you have spiritual ears. When you accept certain things, you do. That's why Jesus spoke in parables. He says it's not meant for them who are outside the kingdom. I'm paraphrasing. It's meant for those who are of the kingdom to know these things, not those who are not of the kingdom. So he spoke that people would hear, yet they did not hear. They would hear the parable, but have no understanding of it. And they would become irritated. Why does he speak in parables? Because you have to have spiritual ears to hear. God will open up your ears when you accept your calling. There are no mysteries when you accept your calling. None. None whatsoever. Anyway, but as far as the world is concerned, in the Bible it says it will always have secrets. There are men who know the truth, but they hold that truth within themselves and they won't release it to anybody, and those men are cursed. They're cursed. Still others are willfully ignorant of the truth. Knowing the truth, they follow the opposite thing anyway. They will never divulge their secrets. The Bible tells us that clearly, that the world may know certain mysteries that they knew from the beginning, but they will not disclose it. They use that as leverage. No king, right? There's no king who has an earthbound kingly mindset, who loves to be a king, who's going to give up his throne. They're going to do everything they can do to keep that throne. Do you know why? Because a king is going to look at his subjects and know the labor he imposes upon them, the hardship he imposes upon them. Do you think that same king would want to endure the hardship of another king? No, they will not. So a person in a high position is not going to easily let go of that high position. They're not. So when you're dealing with the world, there are certain things the world's going to know. These people in the world will know. They will never divulge. They'll let the whole world die before they give out any information, all of it, so they can protect their position. I'm going to talk about that when I get back. There's something with the weather you need to know. Something about billionaires that you may not know. And they have done something. And I'll give you a moment to pause. I'll be right back in a few minutes right here at the Council of Time. Turn this down for you guys. All right. All right. First of all, you guys know the increase in the weather that we've been having, right? The increase in rainfall, the increase in ice melts. Ice melting is a big problem. It's a huge problem. And because we have all these weather phenomena, let me explain this to you guys. How many people know about relative humidity? How many people know about that? Have taken a serious look at the physics behind relative humidity. You ever wonder how the dew point is calculated and all the elements that go into that, right? How can you have dew when it's cold, right, water, but also dew when it's warm? You ever think about that? Temperature and moisture, how that works? So let me explain something to you. You might understand the weather phenomena a bit better. First of all, have some clarity in the understanding that these days, these rainstorms are dropping. A lot of rain, right? A lot of water. It seems like every time a set of thunderstorms comes, a flood advisory or flood threat is associated with the storm, right? Many of you know those floods are real. They're very real and very dangerous when they happen, and very fast, by the way. But why? What's the deal? Well, first of all, before you know anything about that, right, I want you guys to think about the sun. The sun. Do you guys know that the sun has been melting cars? Yes. Cars, listen, in Arizona this year, in a few parking lots, the cars were warped. When the people came from work and went to their cars, the cars were warped. Warped, ladies and gentlemen. There have been cases where the paint has been just stripped off a car and bubbled up. Other cases where headlights have melted. A whole row of headlights has melted. There were some other cases where some cars were parked in a parking lot. Parking lot's been there for a long time. And the people came out. As they would come out, they would find that their car had submerged in about a 1/4 inch of the asphalt that was underneath it. It just sunk into the asphalt. Right? Many of them drove away and half their tire was stuck in the asphalt. That happens. There have been times on the East Coast. It's been so hot, the poor little ducks, right? Ducks that had been around for a long time, and geese, they could not walk on the ground. They couldn't walk on the ground. There have been other times when people's shoes have melted. It's been so hot when flies, right, would drop dead going over a highway or a road. Can you imagine that? I don't like flies, so I'm not in opposition to that, but I don't like heat either, right? There have been too many times when people would go to fill up their gas tanks. Then they would go inside to pay for the gas, and when they came back out to the vehicle, they could not touch the vehicle. Lots of guys who ride motorcycles could no longer sit on the seat. Once the seat was exposed to the sunlight, they could not sit on the seat at all. That means the sun, something is different. Something is really different with the sun. Now, my answer for that is something is different with the sun because the sun is not doing what it does by itself. Something has become a catalyst to the sun. So we know the heat is just outrageous, right? Now, so the heat factor is up all over the earth. All over the earth, right? We've had lots of ice melt in the Arctic and in the northern regions of the earth. All the ice is melted on a specific side, and we've had actually ice accumulation in the northern regions on a specific side, but a massive ice melt on the other. We have underground or underwater ice melts happening at an alarming rate. We have 20 active supervolcanoes on the earth right now. So even within the planet, the magma is incredibly active, and it's going to cause problems, big problems, right? They're starting to detect that in the U.S. Of all places, come to find out the USA is very dangerous underneath your feet. Very dangerous. So we have that to deal with. I'm saying all this to let you know that the sun has certainly changed. So we have heating in the upper atmospheres. Now let me explain this in a way where you'll get this. In the upper atmospheres, right? In the thermosphere, for example, it is hot, but for a long time you couldn't really feel the heat because there was not enough material up there in that part of the atmosphere that would transfer the heat from one particulate to the next. So it could be, 5,000 degrees and you would not feel it. Only through measuring what the heat was, if you had material that was consolidated, would you feel that heat. Otherwise, you would feel cold. As of late, the density of the upper atmospheres has become quite thick, right? Galactic cosmic rays always pour into the solar system, right? They go right through the heliosphere to the inner parts of the solar system and crash into Earth, this, that, and the other, into the sun, into everywhere. But they also carry heavier materials with them, right? These are heavier particles, very heavy particles. That builds up in the upper atmospheres. We also have the weather phenomena, once it reached a certain point, has also dumped particulates in the upper atmosphere. Well, all of that provides density, and it takes density for heat to begin to be felt. You cannot feel heat without density, right? You have to have something has to be dense to transfer that heat, correct? Heat, by the way, heat always goes from hot to cold. So I want you to understand this principle before I continue. If I had an aluminum block sitting on a desk, and the desk was 1,000 degrees, and the aluminum block was room temperature, do you not know that all the heat would find, I'm going to explain this simply, would find that aluminum block at room temperature and begin to overwhelm it or try to equalize. Hot air or hot, anything this hot will always seek out something cold all the time. Yes, thermodynamics. So I'm making it simple, but it's going to seek out something cold. That's how it works. Okay, that's why you have heat dissipation with electronics. They use aluminum and other materials to dissipate heat. Heat builds up, and then, of course, if you have an aluminum heat sink, all that heat is going to be diffused by that heat sink. Okay, it will always that same thing for an air conditioner, right? An AC works on that same principle because it works, right? It's weird at first until you get used to it. Once you get used to it, you realize, hey, that's physics. That's the way it is, and it can become a benefit. Okay, so you know that the upper atmospheres have become quite warm, very warm, very warm. The sun is no doubt responsible for the majority of that warmth, right? And cosmic, all these heavy particles that come into the solar system, I'm going to try not to use that term, but all these heavy particulates have settled into the upper atmospheres, causing it to be more dense than usual. So you have a heat transfer particle to particle, right? So you can actually feel that heat. Also, a compression event is taking place because the upper atmospheres are a bit heavier. The more particulates you have in there, the more they clump up. Think of it as dust. If you have a lot of dust that comes in all of a sudden, if you were to weigh all that dust, it would get heavier and heavier as you add more dust. So indeed, right, it's still dust, it's still spread out, but it's becoming more and more dense as more and more particles join it, right? So it goes from a haze to a thick smoke kind of thing, right? But that adds weight. It also adds a medium for heat to flow from one molecule to the next, right? So it heats up the atmosphere. Now, back to relative humidity. Let's see, since you have HVAC personnel here, if you're in a home and you have ducting in your house, right? And that ducting, you're running the AC in the wintertime, and the ducting starts to sweat. You've got it insulated and everything, but it's still sweating, right? Once the difference between the temperature of that pipe or whatever it's running through, the ambient air reaches a certain level, right? If that temperature is at a specific point or above a specific point, you can have a lot of sweating off your vent tubes and everything going in there, right? Because if it's warm enough, right? If it's warm enough, that air is going to carry a lot of moisture. What you HVAC people, isn't it for 32 degrees, I believe it's 10 grains, right? For 32 degrees or something like that. And if it's 70 degrees, I believe it's something like 20 grains, almost twice as much. And what that translates into is water, moisture, right? I'm sorry, if you were to cool 70 degrees down, it would hold 20 grains, right? So that's moisture of water. So think of it this way. The warmer it is, the more cups of water the air can hold, right? If you cool that air down, those cups of water that you had have to be released, right? They have to be released. Thus you have condensation, right? So the hotter it is, the more moisture the atmosphere is able to hold, right? The hotter it is, that's why ducks sweat, because you have a heat problem, especially in attics. You have a heat problem outside. That ambient air is still warm and humid. Even when the humidity outside drops, if you have that warmth and then you have that cold piping, it's still going to draw all the moisture, right, to that pipe. Remember, that hot air is going to seek out to balance itself, so it's going to reach those colder materials, right? So all that water condensation is going to form on there and start dripping all over the place. So you're going to have a problem. Now think of the world the same way. We have the sun, which is hot. We have the atmospheres, which is, heated up by the sun. They're becoming hotter as the sun puts off more heat. The earth puts off more heat from the bottom and the top. The atmosphere is going to become warmer. Well, if it's warmer, it's going to carry greater and greater amounts of water, so that when you have a storm, all that water is going to fall to the surface of the earth. All of it. Okay? So the warmer it gets, the greater the potential of the atmosphere to carry moisture. That means that's why it's becoming in just incredibly humid. On days when it shouldn't be humid, it's incredibly humid. That's why when storms form, they now carry almost twice as much water as they used to. Right? Clouds over your head are heavy. They're very heavy. But since everything is warmer, they have an ability to carry a lot of moisture. So when you have a rainstorm, you don't necessarily have to have a microburst or anything else. Those clouds can carry a lot of moisture. Now when we have a thunderstorm, you have these flood advisories and flood threats all over the place, right? You guys have seen some of the rainfall, and we're not talking about a microburst. We're talking about rainfall that overwhelms an area almost instantly. I believe this year they recorded 10 inches of rain falling in 22 minutes. Okay, that's ridiculous. That's unheard of. That almost sounds made up. That's what it sounds. When you first hear something like that, understanding the dynamics at play, it sounds made up. It sounds impossible. You go back and search the records, you're going to find worse than that. And we're not talking about a microburst, right? We're not back in the day, they would have a microburst and it would rain like sheets of water so heavy that it would take the oxygen out of the air. You don't have the ability to breathe inside of a storm like that. But the average thunderstorm is dumping too much water. It is. It's dumping too much water. The hail is unbelievable. The storms, unbelievable. The water, unbelievable. And water's heavy, of course. When it hits the ground and builds up, it causes damage, erosion. Not just above the ground, but also below the ground. Many places within the USA during these floods, the water has run underneath the ground and has eaten out these big cavernous systems underneath your feet to the point where entire roads are now collapsing. It was a person driving, I believe it was was it Tennessee? I believe it was in Tennessee. The person was driving the highway, buckled, and tossed his car in the air about 12 feet. Then it broke off at the other end. There were some more cases where the highways are buckling. And we had this talk back in 2014. And I did tell you guys, now listen, when I say I told you guys, it's in the archives, you can find it. But I did tell you guys I gave you a visual of what was shown to me of how the world would look at a very specific time. The highways would be buckled. You guys remember that term? The highways would be buckled. That's precisely what happened to these cars. And it's happening more and more. The highways they're places, roads, by the heat that are just torn up. They're just torn up. We're in that moment, as was just, somebody says, Sister Mayor says 2014. So 2014 it was. So now we're in that time that looks just like what was described right here at COT in 2014 to you guys. The roads, especially with the highways buckling everywhere, right? Now, me being the one who saw it in the first place, I think the Lord showed more than me. I'm sure he showed other people, but I have no choice but to feel a specific way when I go out and look at the world the way it is now, because now I see telltale signs. The trees and the grass. Trees, when they start turning because of the heat, they stay that way all summer. I only saw that in a dream. The temperature changes, the rain, the sheer amount of rain. You guys remember I also told you we'd go through a period of fog everywhere. Fog was just everywhere. It's coming. Where fog will be everywhere. Almost a perpetual fog. Some sort of condition where fog will be everywhere all the time. At that same time, the mud, that red mud is going to be everywhere all over the place, right? And that's going to pose some challenges. The grass, the way it looked, the way it was shown to me, the grass looks like now. The trees, same thing is happening. Same thing is happening. Sunburnt, right? The sun is the same way. But this weather phenomena is going through stages. We've just gone through the buildup. Now the real floods are coming. The water is coming. The water event is coming. And that's what I want to talk to you about. The water event. And evidently, something the billionaires know that you may not. You've heard that term, water event. I'll describe it when I come back. But evidently, the billionaires know it too. I mean, they really know it. And they have put their money. They have put their money, invested their money. We're talking about an obscene amount of money they've invested for the water event. When I come back, I'll describe that to you. Now, I want you guys to research everything I'm saying so that you have an understanding this stuff is real, this stuff is happening. Right? When I say research, not opinions, go look for data points. Okay? Real data. Real recorded data. Not someone's opinion. Real recorded data. So you can see exactly where everything is headed. I'll be right back in just a few minutes right here at the Council of Time. Let's continue, shall we? All right, so everybody so far, you should have gathered that the atmosphere is heating up, right? It's really heating up. The water potential, the storm potential, if you will, is off the scales. It's really high. Right? The storm potential is high. The water event will come. And when it comes, I really do hope that everybody's in a different mind space, heart space, and soul space when it comes. What I mean by that, hope that you guys are not shaken by these things. I'm going to say something. Everybody is not going to participate in the water event. The Lord determines that, not mankind. All right? Now, before I go any further, I'm going to solve something. You know how a lot of people, when a storm comes, and people have this habit, they'll say HARP did it, or, this system did it, or they did it. Can I share something with you guys? With the Lord, if you go back and look at prophecy, didn't the Lord say that he would, at Jericho, that he would take care of his people prior to Jericho? He said he would do that. Right? In fact, he had already prophesied what would happen. He did. He prophesied what would happen. Now, if you didn't know the story of Jericho, you would think by reading the prophecy that God would knock the walls down, right? Or that he would breach it somehow, right? Their defenses would come down. But at Jericho, he instructed them to do it. So then you could say Jericho was a result of humanity. You could say that. Now I'm bringing this up to let you know something. With the Lord, when he declares something, he does not give us his method. He simply tells us what will take place. He does not give us the method. With prophecy, it's important that you understand it's a matter that something will take place. How it takes place is God's determination. He can use anything he so desires. All right? He tells us about prophecy. He gives us details from time to time. For the most part, he does not always give us the method. Okay? He does not always give us the method. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. And very good advice, by the way, Mixler. Please use wisdom in declaring your location and preparations. Please use wisdom. Don't do anything hasty out of fear. Remember, at the beginning of the conversation, don't make a move from fear. Fear will always attempt to instruct you. Don't make your decision based off fear. You're going to mess yourself up. Okay, you're going to mess yourself up. Okay, let me continue. So, we know that the sun is different. We know that things are hot. The seas are hot. The land masses are hot. The sun is hot, right? The people have been dying because of the heat. In India, their heat index has been incredibly high, right? It's been incredibly high. There were some cases just about the sun again. The actual temperature was around, I think it was 80 degrees. Yet the contact temperature was about 150 degrees. Not good. That means at 80 degrees, right? You think you could handle the sun and be out there doing everything, and you could. For some reason, the sun has an effect on materials. It has never affected materials the way it's doing today. Never has it affected the materials that way. It's almost like you can walk out into the sun and not get burnt, but the ground is burnt, right? And things around you get burnt, but you're not getting burnt, right? That's what it's like. Contact temperatures off the scales. It's off the scales. So we have a consensus that it's far hotter than it used to be. And with that heat, you're going to have that higher potential in the atmosphere to carry moisture. These storms that we're having, they're not going to go away. They're going to continue to get worse. Every summer is worse and worse and worse. Every summer, right? The ice melts that have taken place between 2022 and 2025 are simply unbelievable. If you start looking at the numbers, at the sheer volume of ice we have lost, it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. We have lost too much ice. And every time we have some sort of earthquake or volcanic eruption and we have a lot of magma on the move, more sea ice is being melted, right? So we have water problems. Now, just in case you don't know, underneath the crust of the earth in the oceans. So if you dig in the ground at the bottom of the ocean, you reach another ocean. You go through rock, you can go through some weird material, but you'll reach another ocean, another body of water that is superheated on the interior portions of the earth. That's what you'll reach. So you can understand what I'm saying. The scale of the earth. Have you guys ever looked at the true scale of the earth? A modeling of the earth or something like that. Let me see if I have that animation. I made an animation of the true scale of the earth. And if you start looking at the true scale of the earth, you'd understand. So I want you guys to do something. Hold your index finger horizontal. Hold it out horizontally where you can see the width of your finger, right? Now with your finger out like that, let's say that's the thickness of the crust of the earth. I'm going to do this to scale. Now, hold your other finger, hold that finger as high as you can get it over your head. Right? That's going to be the crust of the earth. Now we're going to go down to the interior of the earth. And if you have your hand all the way up in the air, and that's the entirety of the crust of the earth, meaning the mountains and the seafloor, right? The mountains, all of it, are within the width of your finger. If you hold that all the way over your head, then where the bottom of your chin is would be, I'm sorry, not the bottom of your chin, but your belly button would be the center of the earth. You see that? That's about the closest true scale I can give you. So from your belly button, if you hold your hand all the way to over your head and hold your index finger out, that index finger would be the width of the crust of the earth, including the mountains, the Himalayas, all of it. So that means, yes, jets would fly within, right, the width of your finger. And if you go all the way down to your belly button, that would be the center of the earth. So the crust of the earth, look how far up that is. That's where we live. That's where we get oil from. That's where the bottom of the ocean is, and even deeper, even below the bottom. That's all of what we know is right there at our fingers. We haven't gone any deeper. We can't go any deeper. All that in between there is still our planet. If there are things in there we know nothing about. So think about that. We only live on the surface of the earth, and if we go to the bottom of the ocean, we still only live on the surface of the earth, and an aircraft only flies at the surface of the earth. Think about that. Just think about that. The earth is huge. It is huge. It's huge. It's large. It's inconceivable to think that your fingertip, right? They're drilling for oil where your fingertip is. The bottom of the ocean and everything else is still within your fingertip. You're looking at miles down just there where your fingertip is, and miles up. Now think of this, please, because all the underground caverns, all these discovered underground places, all the underground facilities, all these neutrino detectors that are deep within the ground, all the oil rigs and everything else have not gone below the width of your finger. Everything is still done within the width of your finger. My goodness. And yet we think we've conquered everything. So, within the earth are oceans, superheated water. They're capped off by rock or high pressure areas of molten rock, but they're capped off. They found 3 so far within the earth. One of these oceans, and I'm calling them oceans, just think within your fingertip is a ball full of superheated water. One of those things could fill the oceans of the earth. They found 3. That's a lot of water. In the Bible, when the fountains of the deep were opened up, water came out. Right? No wonder. Because there are 3 of these big, huge blobs that could fill up all of the oceans. One of them can fill the earth, the oceans, replenish the oceans. And some. Think about that. We're like little, you guys know about dust mites, right? We're like little dust mites living on the surface of our skin. For a dust mite, the dip on your skin, one of the indentions, for example, on your knuckles, one of those indentions would be the size of the Himalayas to a dust mite. We're like that. We're like that. Okay? We're like that. So that means we only know stuff about the surface. We can't penetrate, but so far there are barriers we simply can't get past. I want you guys to visualize the scale, right? Because the earth is huge. And there are potentials If we didn't deal with anything outside the planet, we're going to deal with enough potentials in the planet that would end life on this earth 1,000,000 times over. By the way, Yellowstone is within the width of your fingertip when you hold it over your head. The Yellowstone caldera, likewise, is still within your fingertip if you were to hold that over the surface of your head. But in the crust of the earth, there are these huge volumes of water, superheated water. And just in case you don't know about superheated water, right? Again, if you take distilled water and you put distilled water into a coffee cup and you put that coffee cup in a microwave for about 2 minutes and it's not going to boil. It's not. When you take it out, it's going to be very still. But you dare not put a crumb in that water. Now please don't try this. Just take my word for it. If you take that superheated water out and put it on your countertop, right? And take one little tiny sugar dust cube and drop it in that cup of water, you're going to see a violent explosion. That's what superheated water does when it comes in contact with anything. It will immediately, that superheated water, the temperature is higher than the boiling point. So when you drop something in there, you're going to have a violent reaction of a heat transfer to that object that would simply just explode it. Right? I've made that mistake with coffee a few times. I warmed up coffee one too many times. If you do that, the impurities, the water's purified. You're just going to cook all the ingredients out of the water. You're going to put the coffee cup on the counter. It's going to be very still, kind of some steam coming up. That's it. You go to put some sugar in there, you better run after it hits the surface of that water quick, because it will violently kind of explode and run all over the place. That's what superheated water does. Now, the earth is full of water like that. Full. We have 3 big blobs that have been identified full of superheated water. And one of them can fill the oceans of the earth over and over. Just one. Just one. Just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. As we continue to heat up, we already have more water coming from above. But we have a problem. We have a problem. We have certain areas of the earth that are capped off from rock. We do. We're heating up because of the sun. That means the sun is incredibly active. We're not going to worry about the cause right now. It's incredibly active. Well, if it's active, it's going to send out, more solar winds and everything else. Listen to what that does. The earth will always absorb those solar winds. Some are deflected, some are absorbed. And when it absorbs that radiation, it goes right into the interior portions of the planet. Superheating materials, molten rock, and everything else in the planet. We're overcharging, which means the magma level is getting higher and higher and higher. As it gets higher, it's going to start breaching the surface. As it gets higher, it's going to release that water that's been held inside the earth through thousands of feet of rock. Yes, thousands or miles of rock. That superheated water will come up. And when it comes up, there's going to be no big tsunami at first or anything else. It's going to come up, and we're going to have a water event. A water event will take place over the entire globe. The entire globe. That's just one way that could really affect us. And I want you to know about that way. I want you to really know about that way. Because we're not talking about fictitious things. No. We're talking about real things. And you guys remember, I hate to bring this up again, but do you guys remember that dream I told you guys about? I was in Russia, in a junkyard in Russia, right? I was looking around and everything, and I was in this junkyard, and next thing you know, I found myself in this house in Russia. Now, in this house, I looked outside, and the sun had fallen and everything, and I looked outside, and all flying insects We're flying out there, right? So I'm running. I'm in the house. All of a sudden, I'm right there on the front of the house seeing all these flying insects. They take flight. So I run back in the house and I shut the door and I'm in the house and other things begin to happen. But the next time I went to go open the front door, when I opened the front door, as far as I could see, there was nothing but the sky on the ground. That was a reflection. Water was everywhere, and it began in Russia. It began in Russia. In Russia. You know what's so funny? That Russian junkyard that I was in, right? Kind of looks like some of the damaged places over there in Russia. And you're not going to believe this, but near the Ukraine, right, and some of the border places of the Ukraine is an entry point to one of these vast ocean places. That's so hard to believe. The permafrost is melting. And it's a known fact that some of the permafrost is a barrier for other water sources. See, Russia's having problems with losing permafrost. They've lost entire villages and neighborhoods and everything else. They have sinkholes you wouldn't believe. And the permafrost is leaving. Well, it gets down so far, there's going to be nothing else holding back large volumes of water that will start to ooze out, starting in Russia. In Russia, of all places. Now, of course, I found this out after the fact, right? I believe I told everybody about that. I forgot. What year was that I told you guys about that dream with Russia and the bugs, the flying bugs, and the water event? That's an amazing fact with Russia. Research that, too. It's all leaving. That's where it began in the dream. Water was everywhere. All over the earth. And it was a silent event. It was a quiet event. There was no big boom. No person announced it. It caught people by surprise. And then lately, I had this dream, and the water event's not going to last, but I had this dream. Everybody was in this hotel, and it began to rain. Now, we're in the USA, in Virginia, in this case. We're in the USA, in Virginia, it began to rain. The rain was taking over everything. The flood started coming. People were not prepared for the flood. The folks in the hotel were stuck. We were stuck. The water had cut off everything, all avenues of escape and everything else. So the next morning, the water started to recede, and everybody went for higher ground. When we went to higher ground, yes, it was dry. There were some places that were untouched, but you could stand on a hill and look around, and as far as you could see, water damage was everywhere. Nobody was prepared for that. After the water event, everything on the face of this earth was different. See, because some places were totally lost due to the water event. Some places were absolutely lost. The water event caused a great instability in the earth, which opened up cavernous regions of the earth. Earthquakes. Can you imagine the sheer weight of water all over the earth all of a sudden? Of course we're going to have earthquakes. As you know how many salt mines are in the earth that we have dug out, that we have evacuated? There's no more salt in these mines. Now that means the water's going to fill these places up, and sinkholes are going to be the consequence of that. Once the ground is saturated, it will not hold the weight up top. So we'll have city-sized sinkholes. If this were true, if what I'm telling you is true and the earth is going to be flooded, then they would map out all the low terrain places, right? And all the high terrain places. And then you would have all the high terrain places would become valuable places, right? So let's look at the USA. If that were true, then everything in the USA above a certain sea level would be priceless. And if I were a billionaire having access to information, and if that were true, I would know about that. Well, let me tell you this one fact. This is going to get you. You ready? Do you know that all the land above a specific altitude, that if the Earth had a water event, now listen to me carefully. If the Earth had a water event, there are certain places that would be above water and certain places that would be below water. All the places that would be above water have been purchased by one of four people. Bill Gates is one. Bezos is another. You guys starting to follow me? That means all the land that is above a certain point has been purchased by a billionaire. Only one of four. Bill Gates, he owns most of it. And when I say every piece of land, I'm talking in California. If the water went up to a certain level, you'd have an island chain, right? Only the pieces above water, that island chains, are purchased as farmland by Bill Gates. Elon Musk has bought up his parts. That's why he's in Texas, I know, because they don't have income tax and that stuff and people think about, but also because of its positioning, right? Also, Mark Zuckerberg, same thing. Same thing. And only in the areas above a specific point. The average person can't do that. So you know what that tells me, and you should wake up to this. When something happens, they're going to own that land. People are going to have no choice but to live on those lands. And when they live on those lands, you're going to have these rich people who own those lands. They're the ones that will sit in a seat of rulership over the people. Mercy is right there. Isn't that something? That's something you can look at, research over and over again. You're going to find the exact same results. So my suggestion to all of you guys is to get a hold of a U.S. Navy map, not the ones that say U.S. Navy. The true U.S. Navy map does not have U.S. Navy on it. It's on it's a USGS topology map is what it is. The U.S. Navy has augmented that map to show sea level rise, so is the USGS. And all the land that's visible, that's what they purchased. So you get another map of the land purchased by these four people, and you do a simple overlay. And when you do that overlay, be prepared to fall away, just fall out of your chair, because these guys know exactly what's going to take place. Do you not know also that other billionaires have shared the co-op with some of these billionaires? In other words, if you got the land first and I knew it was coming too, then I'm going to make a deal with you so that we can have some sort of dual ownership over the other land masses that are above a certain sea level. That has also happened. They're not buying any land that's below a certain altitude. They're not buying any land that's vulnerable by way of its rock strata, because there may be a problem where it sinks back into the earth. They're not buying that land. And you know what? You would think that would just be in the USA. Wrong. It's in China also. And you would think it would just be in China. Wrong. It's in Europe also. And you would think it would just be there in those places. Wrong. It's in the Middle East also. You know when they started this? Anybody? What they have now, it began to happen in 2023. 2023 they started. It is now 2025. There we are with that. Okay, I'm going to let you guys swallow that. I'll be back in just a few minutes right here at the Council of Time. Buddy? There we go. Now, before anybody makes any moves, you have to have an understanding of something. Have you guys noticed what's happening in the Bible? When, for example, Apollyon comes out of the bottomless pit, what happens? Anybody know? What happens? I'll tell you what happens. Apollyon comes out of the bottomless pit, and only those people who have no relationship with Christ are tormented. Did you notice that? The people who have a relationship with Christ, no torment. You don't hear about their torment. In the book of Revelation, you begin to read about the torment of those who had no relationship with Christ. When the 200,000 component comes out of the earth and kills 1/3 of man by fire, smoke, and brimstone. Did you ever, and it says the people that did not repent, the people who are left alive still would not repent of their thefts and fornications, of their worshiping of gold and of silver, their idols of gold, silver, brass, wood. What kind of person is that? Those who have no relationship with Christ. Do you see that? You see that? The billionaires who are purchasing this land, do they have a relationship with Christ? Do they? Do they? Many people get nervous when they start talking. Somebody talks about a major event like this, and even its potential, they get nervous. Have this understanding. In the Bible, you read about a kingdom that's going to rise in the earth. You read also that kingdom is going to be thrust into darkness, and everybody who is in servitude to that kingdom or part of that kingdom is going to suffer greatly. You also read in Revelation, it's the unrighteous who go through the judgments, not the righteous. The unrighteous. That's what you read about. Many of God's children may not know this, and they'll seek to save their own lives. They never have to do that. You don't have to do that. The Lord will orchestrate this in such a way that His grace and mercy will always be with you. Do you not know there's a promise upon those who have a relationship with Christ that grace and mercy will never be absent from you? Never. Things are held in store, the Bible says, because you're here. And because God will pour out or allow these things to happen upon the unrighteous, not the righteous. So you have to have a clear mind. A dark kingdom will rise. It will have an evil ruler. We will see the manifestation of it. We will. But we're not to endure the judgment that befalls that dark kingdom. We're not. When you're a person of the earth with no relationship with Christ, you have no choice but to try and save your own skin. That's what they're doing. They're looking out for themselves. They're looking out for their grandchildren, so on and so forth. If you have a relationship with Christ, you're secured in Christ. His determination will come after you're secured. You will see the manifestation of a great many things. You are not to undergo the judgment of those who have no relationship with Christ. On this earth there will be sufferings. You are not to be part of it. Do you know why? Because if you truly have a relationship with Christ, your tribulation began at birth, and it continues to this very day. See, the Lord told us that if we truly do belong to Christ, if we are of the Lord, the world's going to hate us. And it will seek to kill us as it sought to kill him. It'll wear us down. If you truly have a relationship with Christ, if you truly belong to him, you've been under trials and tribulations from the beginning. If you don't belong to him, you've not been touched. I don't think there's not one person here whose life has not been turbulent. In fact, I believe that everybody here has been living from tribulation to tribulation in their own lives. That's what I believe. I believe every single last one of you have had some woes in your life. So let me share it. Everybody on earth was going to have tribulation. What about those people who have had no tribulation up until this point? Well, they have to go through it. They can either go through tribulation over the span of their entire life, which would be called mercy, or they can have it all in one season, which is called revelation. How about that? If you belong to Christ, he has been bringing you from glory to glory, level to level. You've been growing. Your tribulation is purposed tribulation. Those in the book of Revelation, that great number that no man can number. Remember what the angel said? The angel looked at John and said, "Who are these arrayed in white robes?" John looked at the angel and said, "Sir, thou knowest." And the angel, almost it seemed like in the reading of it, the angel couldn't wait to tell him, "These are those who came out of great tribulation and have washed their robes white in the blood of the Lamb." Did you hear what I said? They came out of great tribulation. That's your life. That number that no man can number has been building for a long time, long before you ever got here. You're going to add to that number. You hear me? They were already found in heaven. You're going to add to that number. From generation to generation, people have been undergoing their process. You're going to add to that number. No man can number everybody who's been on the face of the earth who had a relationship with Christ, who are loyal to the Father. Nobody can number that number. Nobody. No man can number that number. After they're found in heaven, did you notice what happened on earth? Everything happened on earth. And in truth, the only ones the Bible says that the bottomless pit is opened. And those things that come out of the bottomless pit, they're going to go forth into the earth. But they will not touch those with the seal of God in their foreheads. Consequently, those who have to be sealed. If you have to be sealed with the seal of God in your foreheads, that means you have to stay here. If you have to be sealed, right? Nobody knows you. If you have a relationship with Christ, everybody knows you. If nobody knows you, you're brand new. And you have to be sealed to be kept. Don't you? You don't need a seal. If you belong to Christ, you're already sealed. Because Christ is within you. The kingdom is within you. That means you have an identity. It's when you don't have an identity. It's when you're unknown. You have to be sealed. And sure enough, those things that came out of the bottomless pit were told not to touch any green thing nor any tree, but only those men who have not the seal of God on their foreheads. So that means those who have the seal of God on their foreheads had to stay right here on this earth. They had to be sealed because they weren't known. And all that force that comes out of the bottomless pit, it is commanded them that they not touch any green thing or any tree. They can only touch those men who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. And they are to torment those. They're not to kill people, but to torment them. It says, in those days men will seek death and will not find it. Men will desire to die, and death will flee from them. They had no relationship with Christ. Those are the same individuals that make up the kingdom of the beast. Those who say yes to the beast, they're going to stay right here on this earth. And they will undergo what God pours out. You are not appointed to his wrath. If you're not appointed to his wrath, you're not appointed to his wrath. But you will be redeemed from the earth. It'll be finalized. That's what's coming for you. So do not make a decision based on fear. Your life is not like the life of those who have no relationship with Christ. Don't you know that? Leave your life in the hands of the Messiah. Because it is the Messiah who said it is the will of God that he not lose any of us. That does not mean you're not going to transition from this world to the next. No. It means you'll never be lost. You'll always be family. It is the will of God that you will always be family. You have no need to fear what your Father will bring about on the face of the earth. You know that, don't you? See, because it is an angel with the key to the bottomless pit that must loose the pit. I call that the warden. They can't free themselves. Demons cannot free themselves. If anything is in hell, it has not gotten out. It can't free itself. Our Father's not flawed. He's not flawed. Don't do anything out of fear. God did not give us the spirit of fear. When you're afraid and you make a decision, you're going to make that decision based upon a voice that is not your Father's, but the voice of fear. God has not given us the spirit of fear. So because he has not given us the spirit of fear, do not listen to fear. Not one more day. Listen to the words of truth from the source of truth. Fear does not speak God's truth. Fear will lead you into nothing more than depression and destruction. It'll make you hopeless. It'll make you do things rash without guidance. There's no reassurance with a voice of fear. Unfortunately, it is the voice that talks to people the most. Fear does. Don't pray out of fear. Do not make a move out of fear. God did not give you the spirit of fear. But it is he who will guide your life, right? That's right. Grace and mercy is upon you, correct? That's right. So then what do? You do the will of your Father. You do the will of your Father. That's what you do. The Lord will look after you. He looked after me. And I'm hard-headed, and he looked after me. I've had people fall to my left and to my right multiple times. I've been in 2 places. I was the only one that walked out. I was in a place where I didn't walk out, but everybody else walked free, but the Lord still preserved me. He grew me in a way that is beyond belief. The Lord will keep you, and that's why you're kept. He's not barely keeping you. All of it's purpose for your process, for your growth. You're growing as family. You're being qualified even further than what you were. The restoration of all things is happening right before your eyes. The power of the holy people is being distributed throughout the earth. A certain number of Gentiles will come into the fold. And when that number is complete, and that power distribution is complete, the Lord will bring everything to a close, and you're in that season. And the Lord tells us what? Don't fear what man can do to you. What man can do, he can only do to your flesh. But fear the one who can destroy both the flesh and the soul. Regard your Father and his word. Listen to the words of the Messiah, who is your Savior. Be guided by truth, not the ramblings of fear. Fear will say, run to the high ground. Fear will teach you how to save yourself. Most people I know who do that. It does not bode very well. God will guide you and lead you when you don't even know I didn't know how to save myself. I had no desire to save myself. But at least I would listen to the direction of the Lord, and in every single case, he kept me. He kept me. I'm telling you, I am abnormal, and it's a good thing. I should be broke down like a lab monkey, but I'm not. I am not. The Lord has kept me. And I know the Lord will continue to keep me so long as I say yes to him. If I ever say no to him, I do not expect to be kept. Because if I ever said no to the Lord, if I didn't want a relationship with the Lord, I also would not have a desire to be kept. My joy is in the Lord. It is bound within the Lord. Outside of him, there's nothing for me. I've seen the world. I've seen what the world can offer, and I don't want it. I don't know about you, but I want salvation. I want the whole package, which is salvation and deliverance. Deliverance from me, from this flesh, from all influences. Not to mention Jesus Christ. He died for all of us. I want to say thank you without words. There's only one way I can do that, and that's in truth. Words are not going to be enough. If you have ever sacrificed much for anybody, and you can think of Christ. In fact, how many of you have been sick and nobody knew how sick you were? How many of you have been in pain and nobody knew how much pain you were in? When I get sick or I'm in pain or something like that, first, the Lord has always healed me quickly. But when I'm in those moments, I always think of Christ. I don't share my sicknesses with people. I don't do that. But every time I am injured or hurt, sick or something like that, I'm always thinking about Christ who endured. He endured the same thing I endured, but for everybody who lived and would live on the face of the earth, plus some. And he did that for people who would not regard him. He did that out of his love for his Father's creation. Lord, have mercy. He didn't ask us to comply with anything. He didn't. He did what he did for us, not at a cost to us. He did it for us. How do you thank somebody who takes your place when you know you should have been punished, when you know you should not be walking? How do you repay someone for taking your sentence for the foolish things you did in life? How do you repay somebody who is your true advocate with the Father? How do you repay somebody who's satisfied the jail term? How do you do that? That won't happen with words. But I can use my life, every day of my life, to obey him, to pursue him in his ways. I can say thank you by never turning away from him again. I can say thank you by my servitude to you. I can say thank you by surrendering all to him and fully trusting him. How can someone not trust the one who gave their life for them? Have you guys ever given just about everything you had for someone just so they could continue? You gave up your entire future. That means you gave up something and you did not count the cost to yourself. You only desired that somebody else would go forward. You ever have a thought to lay down your life for somebody else? Have you ever laid your life to the side for somebody else? I have. I did that without thanks. Do you know that? I've done that so many times where the person didn't even know it was me. Do you know people have looked at me with contempt because they did not know I was the one who sacrificed a lot for them. I never said a word. You ever had somebody stab you in the back or spit in your face after you gave up all of what you could give up for them, but you never tell them it was you? You ever see someone enjoy their life because of something you did, but they don't know that you just sacrificed everything so they could do that, and you never tell them? And when they see you, they never regard you. They don't regard you as one who made everything happen. They'll never see it. But then you never tell them. You ever see their attitude? You ever see that? Well, I have. And there's nothing. There is no temptation. There is nothing that's going to make me replicate those actions towards the Lord. Some of you say you've been backstabbed and crossed, cheated on. The same, some of you say you've given all to someone and they gave nothing back. Now you know what the Messiah goes through with us. And we're the ones who believe. Do you think upon thinking of that, somebody could go another day and do it again? To betray the Lord like Judas over and over again? To take for granted his sacrifice, that we would continue to sin? Someone asked me one time, it's hard to get away from sin, isn't it? I said, it's only hard when you don't know the story of Christ. When you really know the story of Christ, you'll have no participation or fellowship with sin again. You'll give up everything in this world so as not to defile the pure act of the Lord's sacrifice. It is not hard to give up something you refuse to do again. I have no desire to crucify Christ again. You know what it is to be crucified by the world? Have almost a lifetime of servitude. and then to be turned on afterward. Have nothing but accommodations. One to still try and control your future, and because you say, no, not this time, they discount a lifetime of service. You ever have that happen? You ever have someone make you choose between your faith and your position? Because you can't have faith in a certain position. And how many people would give up everything for someone who wouldn't even acknowledge them? Because that's what the Lord did for us. We didn't acknowledge the Lord every day of our lives, yet he gave up everything for us. He felt pain for us. He endured what he endured for us. And when you think of the Lord's sacrifice, instead of thinking it happened once and for all, right? That was a supernatural sacrifice, was it not? He descended into Sheol. The Bible says he paid the price in full. We think in linear terms. What if somehow the Lord endured an eternity for each of us in punishment? If a day is as 1,000 years and 1,000 years as a day to the Father, what if the Lord spent a lifetime, an eternity for each of us in Sheol? What if he endured our eternal punishment by enduring it? What if he did that for each of us? If you were to ever learn that, could you ever live your life the same way again, knowing there's some innocent person took your place? Could you go to a courtroom, right? And you're about to be sentenced for something you did and you deserve the sentence, yet somebody comes out of nowhere and says, I'll take this person's place. I'll go to jail for this person. You let that person go free. Could you go back out into the world and just do what you were doing before? I don't think so. There's no way I could let an innocent person take on my punishment and then I go back into the world and do more damaging things. No. That person who's rotting in jail and did nothing wrong, they would be on your mind every single hour of every single day. You wouldn't be able to live with yourself. I wouldn't be able to live with myself. Yet that's exactly what Christ did, didn't he? He paid the price in full. We think in human terms. Oh, he just died for a few minutes and then that was it. Nope. What if there was so much more to that? He did all of what he did so that we could be forgiven. Should we accept? If we were to ever accept that sacrifice, he already finished it, satisfied everything. But he also did it for those who didn't accept. He did it for everybody that may come. How heavy your heart must be to know you gave everything up for nothing. Well, I don't know about you. I'm not going to be the nothing. I will regard that sacrifice, and I will not take it for granted. Fear will have you take it for granted. Fear will make you save yourself. No, not me. I'm not listening to fear, but I will listen to the one who gave everything for me. Fear has no placement with me. What about you? My guidance will come from the one who cared enough about me to give all for me. And for you too. I trust him. And I certainly have faith in him. Do you? Do you trust him? He's taking us through a process that's not easy. No, we don't like this process because we can't see all of what the process does. But he will bring us to that point of knowing what it does in time. This process required a death, his death. He sealed the victory. That's our Father giving everything for us. See, some of you may say, well, I don't have all the faith I should in God. Well, let me break this to you. He has faith in you. If he didn't have faith in you, how could he do what he did for us? If he didn't believe in us, then why is grace and mercy still upon us? Even right now, standing here, I don't deserve life. I deserve death. Yet he bestowed upon me life, healing, a sound mind, wisdom, knowledge, and a heart of flesh. He has given me enough to go forward another day. And that is enough for me. I didn't say yes in the beginning. There was no guarantee I would say yes. But he made the way straight anyway. Yes, I'll trust him. Yes, I'll wait upon him. And no, I will not move from that position. There is no doctrine, no new way, no new evidence that's going to cause me to move. He did everything for me at the cross. If I receive nothing from this day forward, he has given everything at the cross, and that is sufficient for me. I trust him enough not to be afraid in the days to come. No matter the water event or any other event, it's by his decree that anything would come or not come. But I have assurances. Because if anyone could give their life, their perfect life, for someone undeserving of it, surely they would fulfill every word they ever spoke. And I'm grateful, nothing but grateful. Christ, he is my assurance. A story, which is the gospel, that is my strength. Yes, I do believe in it. And by it I will walk forward. Because Christ is that gospel. And that gospel is Christ. My hope is that fear will no longer rule your life either, but that you too can regard the Lord in a fullness of who he is. Listen, not by the evidence you may find on YouTube, but by the confirmation he gave us at birth. Something he put there at birth concerning his identity that man did not teach any of us. They can say all they want. They can come up with new evidence and everything else. Man did not give me the identification of Christ I had at birth. Since I was little, there was an identification. And for you too. Environment, man did not do that. That came from something much higher. Much, much higher. And every time, I remember when confusion would come from time to time, at least I had that. I would stop everything and say, nope. Because what the Lord put in me, he put in me since I was little, before I could read, before I could comprehend. I still knew. And man did not do that, nor did anything else in the earth. That came from the source of me. The same source that created me, put that in me. Man didn't do it, so man is not going to get credit. Nothing in this earth did it, so nothing in this earth will get credit. Only God can do something like that. It's not instinctual, because it's shared among so many from distinct differences in environment in their past. This is something God-given that man can never take away. That's why I'm so thankful he gave us knowledge prior to us even reading the Bible. Prior to us knowing about those things, he gave us confirmations that nobody can take away. Haven't you noticed that too throughout the course of your life? How could you know things that were in the Bible that everybody else around you, they didn't know it, but somehow you knew it? You could confirm it. That let you know where you come from. That let you know that sacrifice was surely for you. That the victory is preserved surely for you. That you're not a servant of fear, nor any other spirit that would perpetrate, push its way into your life to misguide you. No. You're family of the living God. Not merely a servant, you're family. And this earth, it's a process, a womb. It's where you grow. As a baby pushes against a mother's womb, so we push against obstacles here. One day we will be born, and that day is coming soon. And everything in God's creation is going to witness this birth. Satan knows it, so he'll do everything he can to get you off course. My advice to you, follow the words of truth that comes from the Messiah. And give fear no audience for your life another day. Don't do anything to save your life. Do everything that be pleasing unto the Lord, which is walk the rest of your days by faith, trusting in the Lord for what he has already established. I know people run for the prize, right? I do not. What God did for me, he did for me through his son when he was sacrificed on the cross. Satan cannot take that away. He can't even challenge that. It's a sealed deal. What I do for what's already established. Darkness cannot compete with that. Folks, I'm going to let you go, but I do encourage you. Stay the course as best you can. The Lord is surely with us, because we shouldn't have made it this far. But not only did we make it this far, but we still have faith in Christ. Don't forget that. God bless and keep all of you. I'm going to see you guys tomorrow here at COT, or I think that's Pastor Paul, right? So one or the other. Possibly both. We don't know. God bless you. You guys stay safe. I'll see you guys next time right here at the Council of Time.